What is going on, everyone? Welcome into another edition of the 415ers podcast. Marc, Grandi, Evan Giddings, Odyssey Sports Podcast Network. As always, Marc, my man, how was your Super Bowl Sunday?
It was nice, relatively low key. Evan had a couple people over at the place, watch the game. It was a good game, kind of a disappointing end, but a fun day overall. How was your Super Bowl Sunday experience?
Oh, it was a lot of fun. Yeah, I got together with a couple coworkers and watched the game. What do you mean it was a tough ending, Marc? I mean, it was a 38-35 field goal walk-off for the Kansas City Chiefs, and a lot of people had the over. A lot of people had the Chiefs or Eagles winning by less than 4. I know there was a lot of prop bets that hit that had to do with the halftime show. I thought it was a pretty damn good game start to finish. I don't know what you could be talking about.
Well, it was a really good game in all. I think the ending was a little anticlimactic with the holding penalty, which I know we'll probably get into it. I thought was a hold and had to be called, but it's just I don't know. The way that that game was played, it was, explosive plays, it was big touchdowns, it was a turnover in a key moment, it was a lot of big moments, and the game essentially ended on a holding penalty on a third and long down in the red zone that allowed the Chiefs to run out the clock and then win the game as a result. So I'm not sure that the ending quite fit how good the rest of the game was, but you're right. The game as a whole was a lot of fun. And
No, I was joking. I was trying to set you up there, Marc.
oh wow, I couldn't even tell. So
Yeah, well, so I think you're right. It was a hold. I will disagree that it had to be called.
I don't know. I mean, do you hear what he said? What James Bradbury said after the game?
Yeah, and I
It,
appreciate that, but that doesn't mean it has to be called. Like, and I think that actually is what people have an issue with, is that in that situation, you would rather have the game determined by the players as opposed to the referees. I get that it's a big play. I also think that even if, I mean, I guess we'll never know, but even if he doesn't grab him, I'm not sure he makes the catch. It also had to do with the fact that the flag was thrown about 5 seconds after the play. So clearly there was some up in the airness from the officials themselves. But I don't want that to sidetrack what you said, which was it was a fantastic game. It was an amazing game. It was a classic and one that I think 49ers fans can also feel good about because, of course, one, the Eagles lost, but two, based on kind of the surrounding talk coming into the week from specifically Niners players, there might be a feeling of vindication if you're a San Francisco fan, Marc.
yeah. So if we talked a little bit about it last week, what Brandon Aiyuk said, and his quote was, he thinks that the Chiefs might be able to quote expose the Eagles defense in ways the Niners thought they were going to before their quarterback got hurt. So then the question becomes, Evan, is 38 points put up by the Chiefs and a win for Kansas City, is that enough to kind of pass off all the Niners trash talk? Because I know we had a little bit of a disagreement when talking about specifically what Brandon Aiyuk said. Uh, but I mean, Robbie Gould talked as well. The kicker, he talked a little bit of trash. Let's see who else. Deebo Samuel talked a little bit of trash as well. Uh, I will say certainly the results of the Super Bowl, and I know there was trash talk directed specifically at James Bradbury, one of their cornerbacks, and as we just got done talking about, he was the guilty party on that hold that
Yeah, I
basically
believe
won the game
Deebo
for the
called him
Chiefs.
trash.
Yeah, so uh, it was a relatively good result for the Niners trash talk, I suppose. It certainly makes them feel a little bit better, maybe makes their trash talk sound a little better, a little more pertinent, but still I'm not so sure it's the best look for all those players to be talking that kind of trash after they get blown out on the road in the NFC Championship game. But considering what did happen in the Super Bowl, Evan, I think there was probably maybe a shred of truth to what the Niners were saying. Probably still doesn't need to be said publicly, but maybe they did know what they were talking about a little bit. Plus, it's also Patrick Mahomes, who might go down as the greatest quarterback of all time when it's all said and done. So maybe there's a little bit of truth on both sides.
Well, and that's why actually I don't think there's truth on the 49ers side, is because of what you just mentioned, and that is the quarterback. No disrespect to Brock Purdy, no disrespect to Trey Lance, no disrespect to Jimmy Garoppolo. Whoever would have started the Super Bowl for the 49ers it wouldn't have been the same result. I'm sorry. Like I will not agree with the players on the 49ers because the exposure that Kansas City, quote unquote, put on Philadelphia had to do with number 15, had to do with the coaching staff. It did not have to do with Brandon Aiyuk or receivers or maybe a little bit of line play, I guess you could say. I thought Kansas City dominated in places that the 49ers, even in their small sample size to show us, did not. And that was in the trenches. It was at the quarterback position and it was on the sidelines. And that's, to me, Mark, why Kansas City won this football game. And they also only won it by 3 points. I think it points to this was a winnable game for Philadelphia. This was a game that Philly could have won the Super Bowl, but because of those 3 things, they could not. And those 3 things, in my opinion, San Francisco right now does not possess at the level that Kansas City does. And that's the reason why the Chiefs are Super Bowl champs. And that's the reason why we're going to have the conversation at some point this week, this summer, down the future of whether Patrick Mahomes is on a pace to be the greatest quarterback we've ever seen and why Andy Reid now with 2 Super Bowls at the helm is a shoo-in for Canton. And everyone else you want to talk about in the Kansas City organization is now a part of a potential dynasty. That's why we're talking about it and not talking about the 49ers.
Yeah, I think the biggest reason you're right is Patrick Mahomes. That's why he won MVP. He threw for 3 touchdowns, only 182 yards, Evan. But when it mattered the most, when they got down in the red zone, he was able to find his receivers, and a couple of them were just wide open out in the flat, with goal to go spots. I think you got to credit Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy in the way that they designed those plays to get their
They were the
receivers.
same play.
Yeah,
They're the exact same play, ran to
yeah.
different sides to different backup receivers.
Yeah, and they were their only targets of the entire game. Kadarius Toney, 1 target, it was that 5-yard touchdown. Sky Moore, 1 target, it was that 4-yard touchdown. So credit the Kansas City offense, everyone involved for getting those plays to work. But specifically the Robbie Gould trash talk, which I know happened after we recorded our most recent episode, Evan. So we didn't get to talk about this when we talked about Brandon Aiyuk. We also didn't get a chance to talk about the Deebo Samuel trash talk either. But Robbie Gould went on the 33rd Team podcast show, and he said, quote, "If you make Jalen Hurts play quarterback, you're probably going to have a pretty solid day on defense." Okay, so what Robbie Gould essentially is saying is what makes Jalen Hurts good is that he can run the ball. And if you just make him a pocket quarterback, he's not going to be able to hurt you very much. There's a little bit of truth to that. Obviously, his legs make him incredibly good, but look what he did with his arm yesterday as well. I mean, 27 to 38, 304 yards, a touchdown, didn't throw an interception, did fumble a ball, but that was really when he was a runner, and he didn't even get hit. He just had it squirted out of his hands. But that trash talk, Evan, by Robbie Gould maybe stands out as aggressively bad more so than any of the other for the 49ers, because I don't know how you can watch what Jalen Hurts did this year and try to poke any holes in his game. I mean, he had 3 rushing touchdowns. He broke a record when he had 2 rushing touchdowns. First player in Super Bowl history with 2 rushing touchdowns and a passing touchdown. He added on 1 more rushing score for good measure, and was very efficient and effective throwing the ball. So Robbie Gould's probably feeling a little bit salty from the NFC Championship game loss. I hate to say it. You cannot say anything bad about Jalen Hurts. The dude has done nothing but win this year and almost beat one of the best teams that we've seen in the NFL.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts put together one of the greatest losing Super Bowl quarterback performances we have ever seen. Off the top of my head, I can't think of one better outside of maybe Russell Wilson in 2014 after throwing a ball at the goal line. Like, and that's what kind of mars his game, but he was fantastic. Like, Jalen Hurts was dominant in the first half of that Super Bowl, and it wasn't his fault that they lost the game. It was just Kansas City was incredible. And also, I thought that he wasn't necessarily helped up by his coaching staff the way that Patrick Mahomes was. The fact that Philadelphia did not go for a single 4th down in the second half after going for every single one in the first half. I thought there was a little puckering on the Philadelphia side that we obviously didn't see from Kansas City. And maybe that has to do with the fact that Jalen Hurts is in his first Super Bowl and Patrick Mahomes is in his third. I mean, I don't know. But no, to say that Jalen Hurts, when you play quarterback, is a different player. Jalen Hurts made 2 throws, both to Dallas Goedert, that not a
Oh my
single
God.
quarterback on the 49ers can make. And I feel very confident saying that. One, going towards the sideline to the left, in which Dallas Goedert has to slide. That's probably a better catch to me, in my opinion, than throw. But the second one, which was the challengeable play that
Yep.
was confirmed, that I know that Dallas Goedert may or may not have gotten his feet in, according to some, but that was a dime put right in between the safety and the linebacker. That's a throw that Patrick Mahomes makes, that Tom Brady makes, that Peyton Manning makes, that Drew Brees makes. And so if you're telling me that Jalen Hurts was not, over the course of the season, when he had to play quarterback, was not the guy who could make that throw, I'm going to look at you a little differently. And even though Robbie Gould is one of my favorite 49ers, and he is amazing, he should be eating his words here on this Monday morning.
Yeah, he should be. He also is a former Bear, so there's probably a little bit of a hatred already between the Bears and the Eagles. So maybe it's just natural Robbie Gould taking up an anti Bears.
I do like that he likes to talk, because evidently that is a part of Robbie Gould's game that doesn't necessarily get a lot of the limelight. Like, he was talking
Yeah.
trash to the Packers after last year's playoff game, talking trash to the Rams, and apparently talking some trash to the Eagles. So,
Yeah.
it's I'm sure he would say it's all in good fun.
Yeah, I'm sure he would. And he's nothing if not consistent. So you got to give him credit for that as well. Something that you mentioned that I think is 100% true. The Eagles not going for it on 4th downs in the second half. I mean, they were 2 for 2 in the first half, and they made them both pretty easily. If you include in, 3rd and shorts, where the Eagles are within kind of quarterback sneak range, they were perfect. Every quarterback sneak they tried was perfect. And I think Hurts is something like 35 for 38 on quarterback sneak, something like that this season. So they get within, 3rd and a long one, maybe even 3rd and 2 or 4th in that same length. They should be going for it every single time because they have the ultimate weapon in Jalen Hurts. But Evan, I think that Kyle Shanahan can use this game to his own benefit when it comes to being aggressive at the right time on 4th downs, because it's something that he has not done really at all in his career as head coach of the San Francisco 49ers. There's been bits and moments, but it's more so been kind of score dependent. If he needs to score a touchdown when he's down late in the game, he'll obviously go for it on 4th down. But if it's in the second quarter of a game, they're just across midfield, or maybe they're at the edge of field goal range, they're facing a 4th and 2. Generally, he'll decide to try to kick a long field goal, or he'll punt and play the field position game as opposed to going forward and trying to extend the drive. Now, certainly part of it is the quarterback that you have. Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, even a Josh Allen, a Justin Herbert, a Joe Burrow. You're going to be more encouraged to go forward on 4th downs. But I just think there is a gigantic advantage. And there are coaches that are starting to catch on to this now as every season moves along. But if Kyle Shanahan were to hop on the bandwagon of being more aggressive on 4th down, I think there's a gigantic advantage to be had before the rest of the league follows suit and it becomes commonplace. It is trending in that direction. I think everyone will be there eventually. But if you get on that bandwagon a little earlier than others, Evan, I think there's an advantage to be had. And I think Kyle Shanahan can watch that Super Bowl, see what the Eagles did in the first half, see what they failed to do in the second half, and draw a correlation between Nick Sirianni's aggressiveness late in drives, late in downs. I do think that is a spot where Kyle Shanahan can get better.